is very essential, and that's core. And both micro and macroeconomics relies on it. So if I have to understand economics these days, it's based on data a lot. So you look at the past data, what has happened in the past, what kind of decisions individuals and agents have taken. So you would want to use that data to inform yourself and then make better informed decisions in the future. Or if, let's say, there's a policy that the government wants to implement, we don't know what will be the consequences of the policy. So now if a similar policy has been implemented in the past, you can check the data and see, well, how effective was it, and then you can, based on that, take a decision. So econometrics is just using statistics on data to give us economic insights, if I have to define it in like one line. Now, how we deal with the data, what exactly what I meant by that insight, and what kind of questions I answer. The course will give you an overview of that. And I think econometrics is not only a subject or like a topic that you learn and you move on, it's also a way of thinking in life. We learn about causation here, and as we define causality, it's like one thing leads to another. But this is something that we have in day-to-day life. We have a lot of conversation which relies on cause. We make causal statements, but they might not be true because we probably don't know how to think through what is causality and what are just merely coincidences and what is a correlation. So it also gives you a good framework of how to think in day-to-day life and what kind of statements can be made. And I think the major aim is, if you are confused what you want to do in the future, whether you want to take economics, whether you want to take another course like finance, it also gives you an overview on, is it worth, or is it something that is of interest to you? So don't think about this as like a 4 weeks of me giving you an overview of econometrics and that's that, and you learn certain concepts. That will definitely happen, but also take it as like you learning a new skill in life, how to think. And you're also getting some insights on what kind of career choices you want to make in future, whether you want to go into economics, whether you want to take another course like finance or political science or history. So if you're confused among these choices, this course may help you make a much more informed decision. Yeah, so as a start, I would want to stop here. And if you have any questions, feel free to, you can ask me or Bharti. So I think we can jump directly into what Bharti has to, like there is an activity that we have prepared for you and Bharti will take you over. So yes.
Hi everyone, so I'm Bharti and I'll be TFing for this course. I've already assisted Professor Arora for another course and I'm happy to continue again in Ashoka Horizon program. So I'll start with the activity, but may I know how the students will be interacting if I have some questions from
Uh,
them?
they can unmute themselves by writing in the chat.
All right, okay, great. So there are many problems like what Professor Arora mentioned about causality. So there are many things which an economist has to deal with. And the thing is that you have the data, and data can be seen by anyone. I mean, by a computer scientist, by a mathematician, by anyone. But how an economist thinks and how he or she deals with the data, that comes with the economic intuition, and that's the upper hand what economists have with the training and with the training which you are going to get in this course. So suppose it's 1943, World War II, and you are from US military, and US military that time they were losing a lot of bombers. So now like a lot of mm, mission they were trying, it was failing very badly, and they wanted to armor their planes so that they could reinforce the plane, they could protect the plane. And the idea was that since armor is very heavy, which area of the plane or which side of the plane they should reinforce so that they could protect their people, they could protect their military. So if I have to ask someone which, how the plane looks like, I have this picture which is not like very clear, but there's a picture of the plane. Now if you have to figure out which area of the plane you have to protect, which area of the, because armor is also very heavy, then how will you think about this? Which area of the plane will you protect? Can somebody jump in, answer, think about it?
Actually, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
normally, so I've actually heard of this problem before.
Okay.
Yeah, so generally, if you would look at the places where actually there have been less damage, because if you look at the places where there's lots of bullet holes but it still survived, that means that that area generally doesn't get affected even after being shot at. So you would reinforce the places that are being shot at less, because that could mean that those are more sensitive areas.
Right. In 1943 case, it worked, and this is actually the answer of this particular problem. But let's go with the heuristic approach, because I'm sure a lot of people would not be knowing about this very standard problem in econometrics. And this problem actually was solved by one of the Hungarian mathematician who went to US to serve the military there. And the idea was that before even coming to that conclusion, Arjun, could you, or can anyone else tell me what sort of data will you be collecting to solve this sort of problem? So military has this thing that, a lot of planes are coming back. So what you mentioned, that they look at the bullet holes, but they can only look at the bullet holes from the planes which are coming back. So they do not even know that planes which are damaged, what is causing them, what is causing the damage, right? So as Arjun said, that it could be that if bullet holes at the area where it's very less, and it's coming back, that means, I mean, that area is more prone or more vulnerable. And the area which is hit a lot by bullets, like maybe wings, or maybe some other part of the plane, and even with like 100 and 200 of bullet holes, it's coming back. That means that area is not that prone to the damage or prone to blast, right? So the first thing, can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so the first thing as an econometrician, one will look at is the data, like planes which are coming. I look at the bullet holes per square feet from all the possible parts of the plane. So of course, you'll be dividing the area of the plane. And you'll be, I mean, of course, it's continuous. So you'll not be dividing all the areas, but you will take some of the areas. So maybe wings you will take, then the fuel system, then the engine and the tail section. And we have divided the plane into the four sections. And now we have the data of the planes which are coming back with bullet holes per square feet. And now this is the data set. So can somebody say that with this data set, what's the first, at the first glance, what you can infer from this?
And the tail section gets the most hits from the bullet holes.
Right?
And it
Any
will,
things?
yeah, like if we were taking the normal approach, normally we would say that they need more reinforcement since they get hit the most, but we would have to apply survivorship bias to it to get the actual conclusion.
Yeah. So the first slide actually answered the problem. So So, yeah, I mean, that time, since we know about this problem, it's very, yeah, it's kind of very easy to fathom, like why this won't hold, why will not go with reinforcing at the tail section or the wing section. But suppose we come up with a new problem in this era, we might have to think in a manner where we do not have full data set. So here the most important thing is, although see this problem, I mean the way it was given by that Hungarian mathematician, and which you people are also reclaiming, that will not reinforce the armor at the tail section or the wing section, but will maybe do it in the hinges section because maybe that's more prone. It's one of the things which you are saying from the data, but there can be people who can argue that we do not have the data of the planes which are not even coming back, right? So we have truncated data, we do not have the full data. So whatever we are inferring, it's from the little sample we have, right? And the inference which which was drawn in 1943, that okay, we have to protect engine, and it worked at that time. But suppose again this problem comes, right? We cannot like really follow blindly. We'll have to think that okay, can we go to the next slide? Next. Yeah. So we do not have the data of the planes which did not return. And that's why, that's what I'm trying to say again and again, that with the limited data, we are saying that, okay, engine is more prone, and that's why we'll protect engine, because we do not have any other option. But if we had the data of the engines which were not even coming back, that would have resulted in a more better and robust results, right? So, how about apart from Arjun and Varnika, other people could understand the problem? Any question? Or can you give me some example where this survivor bias, or where you have like very less data or not complete data and you have to talk about and solve the problems like that? Can you think about some problems in the real world? Any example? I can't see P. Oh, there's one. Oh, sorry. It's me only. Are there people raising hands? Sorry.
Not yet.
Okay, so nobody has any example in the real world where they can think about, okay, think about this situation that you have to solve a problem where for the population, and you do not have the data for the population, right? So you had to solve the problem for the population which was going in the war, but you have the data for the planes, or for the population, or for the sample which is coming back, right? And you're trying to infer about the other population from the population which is coming back, right? So can you think about some real life problem around this? Like you have to infer something about the population or sample which you're not really sure about. Can we go to the next slide if nobody has any real example
We do
idea
have
coming?
Shweta who's raised her
Yeah.
hand.
I just have one example which I'm thinking, which I'm not sure if it's fully correct.
That's
But if
okay.
I think that suppose in an exam there are like 10 students who have really topped, and they are being interviewed by a sort of a news channel to ask about which study methods they use to get, like study effectively, and hence they scored the top marks. Suppose they say that they use the flashcard system for studying, maybe people might conclude that maybe that is the most effective method because it's being used by the 10 top people who have scored the highest marks. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is actually effective, because the people who have not scored as well, they have not been interviewed, and they might have used the same method to study as well, but because their information is not being collected, it does not necessarily validate that the particular study method is actually proven to be useful.
Right, absolutely right. I think this is what the sample bias is, right? And what you're saying is basically the sample bias. Like you do not
Yeah.
have the sample, you're trying to infer. I think it's a wonderful example. And I think we'll be coming to
Thank
one
you.
of those examples immediately after this exercise. Anyone
Right.
else thinking any idea about, or you could think about this sort of problem?
Yes, ma'am. Even I do have an example, but I'm not sure if it's truly
That's
correct.
okay.
Ma'am, what if we look at it like this? You have to treat a pandemic, so there are many people dying, and when you're making the medicine, you have to see on, like how many people are affected by that medicine. We don't have the chart where we know about everyone's health issues. So we take a random, survey or maybe, and we get to know a few people. We test it on them, and through the majority, we can get the medicine. So, yeah.
You are absolutely right. You have touched a very interesting problem in biology, medical sciences, and economics, of course, because people do a lot of RCTs these days
Yes, ma'am.
and randomized control trial. And one of the main critique of RCT is what you have just mentioned. So, wonderful example.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so I also have an example. Like, suppose we want to understand, like, all startup founders, but we only study the successful startups. So the failed startups are missing from our data. So our conclusions about may be biased. So, like, this is similar to the airplane example where the planes that didn't return were missing from the observation.
Right, right. By the way, in these cases, you people have come up with very interesting problem. But in these cases where you do not have the data set and you're trying to infer something, what's the other alternative? Why do we do this? Like,
I wanted to suggest it's specific to this example, but and also since we're looking at only data taken from aircraft that came back, we could also take an alternative method by interviewing the crew members of the planes that came back, because I'm pretty sure one or two people would have noticed that their wingmen or the other planes, or they were getting hit and they were going down, but exactly where they could have gotten shot at. So like they,
oh, maybe,
yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
because
I
I'm
mean,
pretty sure they would notice when suddenly one of the big bombers next to them just started losing altitude and crashing because they got hit in a very specific place. So they could take multiple different interviews and compile that data to see what is the most common reason.
yeah, but they did not ask. I think even in one of the interviews I've heard from one of the military guy flying this fighter plane that, when they are in the war, they just perform and they're not able to notice. This could be one of the reasons why they did not even ask these people, because they just perform. They are hardly able to think about or analyze. So maybe that's why they did not even ask these people. And it's also a very, I mean, Arjun, the point you raised is, I think, very interesting, because the way we collect data, we have limited resources, right? And with those limited resources, now we have to infer something. So we'll go and collect the data, even in the field. And we can't ask everyone everything. And we have to be very selective when we ask the questions, or when we prepare the questionnaire, or when we take the sample, because it's very costly collecting data set. So one has to be very cognizant about what we are trying to answer and how we are trying to answer, right? So even collecting sample, understanding sample is very, very crucial. And there are many ways to collect samples also. So
Ma'am, I think one
yeah,
way that you are telling that with the limited resources, it's not possible to cover every single aspect, but I think practically it's first important to identify what are the different groups or different categories of samples that need to be taken. So if
right.
like the limited resource asks that you can only take a sample from 10 people, instead of taking the same 10 people from one category, it's first important to look at how many categories are required, and then even if it's just two people from different categories, at least you have a more diverse representation, and that information will really give a more practical conclusion than asking the same category of people different questions. Like you have
Yeah.
to mindfully allocate your resources in order to get better representation.
Absolutely. So what you just said is the heterogeneity. I mean,
Right, right.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that depends on the objective of the problem also. Sometimes we need homogeneity, sometimes we need heterogeneity. So depends on the problem, and that's why I think understanding all those techniques and understanding the objective or how to infer the problem, those things are very important. And even when we have the data set, like how do we infer? I think in this course we are going to learn that thing only. We are not going to learn how do we collect the data set, but it's very important to understand the data set, because rest of the things will go after that. So yeah, we can come to the next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I have put some of the examples. So when you try to talk about wages of the workers, and you say that what are the factors impacting the wages of the worker, we just have people who are in the labor market who are earning. But it would be nice to know people who dropped out, right, to understand the reservation wage. And your day, I mean, your sample can never be like it won't be able to answer everything, and it's very difficult to draw any sort of phenomena, and that's why it's social science, right? Econometrics, I mean, you'll not be, I mean, you'll not be able to claim that this is the phenomena. And that's the beauty of the econometrics, I think. And then there are many examples like repayment records of existing borrowers. You just know you do not have the full sample again. Then somebody talked about this health, the medicine experiment, right? And I have that example, patients who completed the drug trial. So maybe it worked for them, maybe we do not, it did not work for them. And that's why even in the medicine, we do not
Yeah.
claim it with 100% confidence. Yeah, so we claim with some probability, right, and with some confidence, and and that's how we conclude this survivorship bias. Anyone having any question? Can we move? Uh, can we go to another next slide? So we'll come to another problem. So I think you people could understand the problem very well, and you people are able to understand how to understand the data, or how to fix the model, or how to think about these problems. So I think the points I have on this slide, you people performed well on those, so we can move to the next slide. So we all are familiar with 2026 election of West Bengal, and in when people exit from their booths, they are generally asked a lot of questions, and there's a celebration, and um, uh, there are things going on after the election, after the people have casted their votes and they come out of their booths, and that's called celebration based on their exit polls, right? And exit polls, actually, the news around exit polls occupy the news for 3-4 days before the election results come, and a lot of people take confidence in this analysis, right? And this exit poll data is very, very important. And most of the time, it has proved to be right in the history that whatever exit poll is coming up with, uh, it's almost right. But there can be some over bias or under bias, sometime, which is like overestimation or underestimation, right? And uh, does anyone have idea about this sort of thing, that when they collect the data set, what is the problem?
Might be
So is
biased.
it
Uh,
We can go one by one. Arjun, yes.
yeah, sorry. The data could be biased, at least in this specific example, because, for example, some of the voters might have been bribed or threatened, so they would have been compelled to vote for TMC. I'm pretty sure.
And they're saying something else.
I mean,
So
even if
exit poll is, I'll tell you what exit poll is. Exit poll is that you come out of both and people ask you question. There are people asking you question like, whom did you vote for? And they tell that we voted for this. And on the basis of that, they infer that how the election result will look like. Okay. So this is what exit poll is. And in 2021, this exit poll basically um, asked question. In 2026 also they asked question. In 2026, the exit poll asked, I mean, the conclusion from the exit poll is that BJP is winning. That actually happened, right? But they could, of course, they could not tell us the exact number of the seats which they'll be winning. And similarly, it happens in every election. Exit poll is one of the very, very crucial thing which goes around for 4-5 days on the news, and it's like a celebration period for a lot of people because generally it proves to be right. But in 2021 in Bengal election, it did not. And that's so I think exit poll is
But it's
understandable
not
to everyone.
necessary for everyone to answer honestly. We cannot just assume on basis of the people's reaction towards the question. Because why would they want to, like, tell everyone who they voted for?
Absolutely. And you know, this is what happened in 2021. So what they concluded with the exit poll was very different from the actual seats which were won by both the parties. So actually, you're answering a very very right point that why will I come out of my booth and will tell the exact party I voted for. And why people don't do that? Why people lie? There can be multiple reasons. Maybe pressure from the political pressure, maybe the political scenario, or maybe
Ma'am,
the
it
distance.
depends on, what the crowd is over there. Because what if you voted for some other party and the crowd was hoping that you voted for some other party, and, they just start a fight over there? Like,
Right.
anything
So
is possible.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So exit poll can be very biased, yes, Shweta.
Ma'am, I also think it's possible that certain news channels want to portray that maybe a certain party is winning or losing. Like maybe it's the sort of questions, like they only choose a certain specific people to show that a certain party may be winning or losing. And I also think that many of the people, they just might not be motivated enough to give the correct answer, or they might purposefully give it so that there's a misleading conclusion at the end. Like there's
Yeah.
many factors that go into it, and I don't think many people, especially in the rural populations where they're voting, a lot of them are illiterate, right? So maybe they don't even realize the weightage of how much their answer can really shift the data which is dictating the exit poll.
Right. So I agree with your second and third point. With the first point, we are not like really trying to rationalize what agenda media people will have to show some people in the data. So
Okay.
exit poll is basically a result which is properly calculated and analyzed. So when we are
Okay.
talking about it, we are talking about about why exit poll data, and we are assuming that whatever news channels are saying, that's basically saying the exact result of exit poll, and they're not manipulating around it. Otherwise, there will be
Right.
another problem nested around that. So
Yeah.
and complicated. Again, it can be solved using econometrics, but yeah, very complicated. So yeah, we'll go to the next slide and we'll try to understand. I think all the points you people came up with, it was absolutely right. So see, these were the exit poll taken by different news channels, and the approach methodology is not very clear, or the sampling is not very clear. There are some standard sampling methodology to collect the data and answer these questions, and this is what they came up with. And see, the actual result of BGP is too low from the way it was predicted, right? And from when we look at all the channels, so they overestimated. Maybe the reason which one of you said, or maybe some other reason. But as an econometrician, what would you think? You can think about the following reasons which you people have said. Can we go to the next slide, please? Next slide. So, it could be that some people refused or avoided the interview. And especially in West Bengal, this can happen because a lot of riots uh, uh, around this election happens. And a lot of people may refuse to answer. And one of you said this, like, why will I even try to answer this? And it can be that, TMC voters were silent and BJP voters were very loud about their voting. So this could be the reason that, the prediction happened, or that this bias happened in their conclusion from the exit poll, because TMC voters were silent and they predicted that whatever seats the party is going to win will be from BJP. Or it can be in the tone of the question which was asked by the interviewers. That can also have an impact in the way data was collected or the way results were inferred around that. So yeah, these could be the reasons one could think about. Next slide, please. So as one of you mentioned, and as the last slide mentions, it can be that there is some silent voter syndrome. People are not really revealing their true vote, and this could be the reason why the prediction was absolutely wrong in case of BJP and TMC in 2021 election. By the way, in 2026, I think it was absolutely right, very close to what they predicted.
Yes.
Yeah. Next slide, please. So, do you find any similarity between World War bomber problem and Bengal 2021 exit poll problem?
Yes, ma'am. Similarly, like the polls were predicted across those people who actually stated who they voted for. The ones who never stated it never got accounted for, and thus there was a conclusion drawn on the basis of just the survivors or the people who were actually interviewed.
Yeah. So some sample bias problem, right?
Yeah, so like the similarity in both the cases, like they suffer from selection bias, and in World War II, like analysts only observed planes that returned, and while in Bengal 2021 exit polls, like pollsters only observed voters who responded and not the ones who did not respond. So in both
Yes.
situations, the missing groups contained crucial information,
Hmm. Right.
which led
Absolutely.
to misleading conclusions. Yeah.
And the conclusions were also wrong because conclusion, I mean, although the problem was slightly different in both the cases, but there were many similarities in the problem, and that's why there were issues with the conclusion also. And that's why when one is trying to model this, or when one is trying to answer these sort of questions, one has to be very cognizant about how you're inferring or how you're, because ultimately it will go to policy and you have to suggest something, right? And one has to be sure about the things which you are suggesting. So we can so there is one more activity, one more problem, and that was quite interesting, even in the history of statistics and econometrics. So we'll just discuss that problem. Can we go to the next problem? Next slide, please. Yeah. So in Europe, like there were many, I mean, fertility rate, of course, fertility rate is a number of children born uh, uh, so there are many ways to calculate the fertility rate. We generally, when we talk about fertility rate here, it's the number of the children born. And so in Europe, there were many, of course, the fertility rate was very high once upon a time. It's not very high now, and there were many stocks which were also there in Europe, and this was real paper in journal Nature, sorry, and this paper tried to draw some of the infer some of the correlation, and they came up with some results which were very hilarious, and it also stands as one of the most hilarious work in statistics. So can we go to the next slide, please? Yes. So in 1988, this person, Helmut Zeiss, he was a German physician, and he published this paper in Nature. And he showed that as stock population in the West Germany fell between 1965 and 1980, birth rate of the children, I mean birth rate of course of babies, it also fell. And he gave a very hilarious name to this particular trend. So maybe you can Google and you can discuss among yourself and you can just see what was the name given. And in 2000, this person, Robert Matthews, what he did, he just did not collect data from Germany, but he collected data from all parts of Europe. And he tried to understand that if there is there are more strokes in the country. So are there more babies in the country? And there were many, many hilarious examples, like babies are coming from stroke and, the kind of relation they were coming up with. So next slide, please. So see, these were the data collected from different countries in Europe, so Albania, Austria, and they tried to figure out how many births happened per thousand population and how many stroke pairs were there per thousand. And they tried to draw this correlation that with stroke pairs increasing, are there more births? Stroke pair is, of course, one of the member of I exactly do not know that cohort, but it's one of the births, I think. And birth was, of course, by humans. And we could see that as the stroke pairs number is increasing, birth of the children is also increasing. And they concluded that, the correlation between this was 0.62. And now, given that this is the data set and this is the correlation, what do you have to say? Anyone? Can you draw this conclusion that with increase in the number of stroke pairs in the country, there will be more babies born?
This would be the same as like what we were like the actual agenda of the meeting, right? Like if video gamers perform like bad academically, does that mean that video games inherently promote bad academic results? No, because that would just be correlation. There's a difference
Yeah.
between correlation and actual causation of certain events.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what Professor Arora mentioned initially, that we'll be learning causality, because if we do not learn causality, we may also conclude this sort of results, which can be hilarious, but also very costly to conclude anything, right? And when Robert Matthew, when he did this exercise in 2000, it was more of a paper which was mocking the earlier paper. It was not that he was like really concluding, okay, there exists correlation, we are able to infer something, right? So this exercise was basically to understand that if there is correlation, that does not mean you can draw something, right? And correlation does not answer everything. And even economic intuition will be very important, that, just with increase in stock pairs, you can't really say that there are more babies born in the country. Can we go to the next slide?
I think there's a movie also with the similar plot, which basically says that storks do deliver babies. So was that inspired from this incident?
Oh, not sure. I have not watched the movie, but interesting suggestion for others also.
Yeah, because
So
it's like an animated, I think, Disney or
oh,
Pixar movie, which is exactly saying that storks do deliver babies, and it's a whole system of delivery there.
oh, interesting. Yeah, I think we have some interesting movies also around that. So yeah, even in the statistics, it's cited as one of the most funniest paper. Even the names they came up with were quite interesting. So we can't really, if you just look at point number 3, you can't just have birth is equal. It will be function of some stock pair. So you need to account for some more things, right, to understand. Even if somebody would control the size of the country, right? And if somebody will look at the size of the country, if the size of the country is very huge, then of course the rural area will be very huge. Of course, at that time in Europe, and with that, the number of stock pairs, of course, will be higher. And even in rural areas, the fertility was, and in that time, Europe fertility rate was quite higher because of French effect, the Paris effect, and that's why it was just some inferences which people were coming up with, and it had nothing to do with actual scenario or actual cause, right? And that's why it's very important to think about some other variables, or think about some other factors which can cause whatever we are looking at, right? And that will be the main exercise of this course, understanding the causality and not coming up with these sort of conclusion. So that's all from today's activity. Any question? or any point you would like to raise? Anything you would like to say? All right, so that's all from my side. Virat, you can take over.
All right, thank you so much, Bharti, for that very intuitive presentation. I think we can just move to the latter half of the webinar. So that was an insight of how the classroom for this course is going to look like. Along with econometrics, we have other courses that are part of edition 2, which will go over psychology, biosciences, data sciences, and business and entrepreneurship. The courses will be taught from June 28th to July 12th. The live session will take place on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Along with these courses, so the learning won't just end at the end of the course. You will also, select students will also have the opportunity to receive extended opportunities from the faculty, which can take form of internships, mentorships, observerships, and research experiences. Other than that, this is just a testament of the good ratings that we have received over the course of the programs. One of the most common reviews that we've heard from students is that they have received clarity when leaving the program because they were able to engage with actual practitioners in the disciplines, which would help them know what they want to pursue in undergraduate studies. And that would be it from my side. This is the enrollment link. You can scan it to access the apply portal, where you will see all the courses that are available for edition 2. Our deadline is on June 7th, and we encourage our students to apply fast. If you guys have any other questions regarding the course itself or about the program, feel free to type in the chat or unmute yourself. Can school pass out students join? Yes. If you haven't started your undergraduate studies, you are eligible to enroll into the program. Anyone else? All right, I don't think we have any more questions. If you do have questions, you can also write to us at horizons@ashoka.edu.in. That email is in the chat. We've also put all the important links as well to access the apply portal. I guess with that, we can end the session for today. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Thank you, Parthi, Professor Arish, for being part of this webinar as well.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.